Hey guys, Chad the Ghost Hunter here, and I'm in Franklin, Tennessee at the Historical Museum here, and I have finally tracked down Colonel Shy's casket. And if you remember from our last video, I was in Nashville and I stumbled across what was called Shy's Hill, and it was a decisive battle during the Civil War, and it was named after Colonel Shy, who was holding the hill there, and he was shot point blank in the head, and then his body was moved to a local doctor's office, actually his plantation, where he embalmed him and then left him outside, dressed him in civilian clothing, left him outside on the front porch for a few weeks until his family from Franklin, Tennessee could recover his body. They had to wait for the Union troops to move on or make it safe for travel. And then anyways, after that, all the way in 1977, there were some grave robbers that defaced his grave. So I finally tracked down the casket. It's been at several different museums all over Tennessee, but now it's in Franklin at the archives here. So we'll get right to it. In 1977, police were called to the grave of Confederate officer Lieutenant Colonel William Shy. It was discovered that the grave was dug down about 3 or 4 feet, and they found a headless body in the upright sitting position on top of a cast iron coffin and what appeared to be a tuxedo jacket. So they thought the body was kind of fresh because there was still pink flesh and his joints were still intact. So the Dr. Bass, which is a Tennessee forensic anthropologist who runs the body farm in Knoxville University of Tennessee there. If you don't know about that, look that up. It's pretty interesting. So he collected all the remains, recovered everything but the head, feet, and one report says that one hand was missing, and another report says that there was an arm missing. So I'm not really sure which one is correct. So he removed all the items from the grave. They inspected all of it. They looked back into the coffin. They found no body inside, which is not, that's common with graves over 100 years, especially in Tennessee's damp conditions. The ground and just the conditions that the body would be in would break down completely, even the bones, leaving nothing but a layer of goo, which he did find inside. So he just thought that this was a fresh body that somebody was trying to hide in a grave while they were probably digging for Civil War relics at the same time. So when they went back to re-examine the grave, they did find the skull inside the coffin, and it appeared that the grave robbers had been interrupted and attempting to stuff the victim back into the coffin, must have dislodged the head. So since they found the head, the death was no longer a mystery because it was a huge gunshot entry and exit wound that had shattered the skull into 17 pieces. But curiously, the dead man had clearly never been to a dentist and had significant untreated cavities. So the state crime lab also found that the clothing was very strange for somebody in the 70s. It was made of all natural fibers, was completely without labels. The pants were also an odd style with lacing up the sides. And the state crime lab technician called Dr. Bass, expressing concern that these items, the items of clothing, just really didn't add up with the time frame. So Dr. Bass was beginning to suspect that the body in the grave was not added by grave robbers, but instead was actually Colonel Shy, and must have lost his head and other body parts after being pulled from the coffin. And it was known that Colonel Shy, who was 26 at the time, was shot point blank in the face by a .58 caliber ball. And also, if it was Colonel Shy, that would explain the lack of modern dental work as well as the clothing. The only thing that he was worried about is how was the body over 113 years old still be in the good shape that it was in. So what it was is He was embalmed in arsenic, and also that he was sealed inside of a very sturdy cast iron coffin that was lead lined and sealed, and that kept out all the moisture and insects and oxygen that would have definitely sped up the decomposition process. And since the body was stripped of his uniform during the Civil War, and he was embalmed and buried in his best suit, and you can see it was probably the same suit that he's wearing here in this portrait. And there we go. So anyways, finally tracked this down. Interesting story. And this coffin does not quite look like it's 5'10". It looks very small to me, but I don't know. I don't have a tape measure with me, but it just looks a little small for a guy 5'10" to be kind of crammed inside of here. So anyways, this looks like an interesting museum. Never been here before, so I'm going to do just a little walk around and see what's inside here and film a little bit of the artifacts that they have here and see what we get into next.